News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and
George.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 right here on Soonerscoop.com, where we are joined by Mr. Josh Christian, currently in Houston. He's going to actually be in Oklahoma by night's end, hopefully. I don't think there's any bad weather out there because his travels have been kind of a shit show from time to time. Josh is joining us. We got Eddie Radosevich here in studio. George Stoya is here, who has been chasing down criminal news this morning. Always a fun start to your day when you have to talk to PIOs.
Just this is my least favorite part of the job, but Makari Vickers was arrested at 2:52 a.m., or I guess he was booked into Cleveland County Jail at 2:52 a.m. He did bond out at 9:34 a.m. We do not know what he was arrested for just yet. I think we have an idea, but we don't have the police report just because OUPD works in a way that's much more difficult than Norman. And if you're wondering why he was booked into Cleveland County Jail, it's because OU doesn't have a jail.
Yeah.
So we were able to confirm, though, from Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, when he was booked and everything, but they are unable to tell me why he was arrested. So probably by the time you're listening to this, you will know, because I think OUPD will get back to me by the end of the day.
Have a night, though. 2:50 on a Wednesday morning. I like that.
And I don't believe this is the first arrest under Brent Venables. I think
Technically second.
I
don't count the first one, though, as a real arrest.
Who was it again?
Jalil Farouk got arrested for unpaid parking tickets.
Farouk.
That's more of a...
he had a binge
But then
war
I would
now,
think this is actually third, because wasn't there a situation where Colin Montgomery, who is obviously I think he transferred.
Oh, yeah, on Campus Corner or
and
something.
And Jaden Gibson.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were ever actually arrested.
No, I don't think there were any arrests.
Public nuisance.
That was over on
Yes.
Buchanan.
There was a police log for him, but they weren't. I don't think they were ever arrested.
No, I don't think any arrest.
But Farouk was.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
Renegade program is what it sounds like.
Just a terrible. What are you doing, Brent?
I do have a Missouri fan in my mention saying that Brent Venables runs a thug culture.
Good.
So
I'm sure that person,
Was it Eli Drinkwitz?
No, I saw him respond to an OU fan today too.
Saying
about
what?
About his well, did you see there was
my God, the air guitar thing?
The air guitar. He actually responded. Lane Kiffin quote tweeted it and said this is actually worse than Brian Kelly. And then Drinkowitz responded something like, "Who doesn't love Creed?" or something. I don't know.
It was just such an awkward juxtaposition.
It is funny, and I just think OU fans again.
If you want to get wound up by something like that, go for it.
Yeah,
it's June 11th.
It just makes him look more like a Simpsons character.
Don't tell me they don't hate Missouri. OU fans.
I think they've always hated...
George, you spend energy on things you don't care about.
Yeah.
That's what most people do.
I think people have hated Missouri fans just to hate them because they're hateable. I mean, we've been there at the height of Missouri-dom when OU went in at number 1 and Eddie had to run around trying to get our credentials because they never issued them to us.
Yeah.
And
I've been up there twice for games just as a fan as well, growing up.
I mean, it was a great environment that night, but their fans were out for blood. And, I mean, you think about all the basketball, and this is for the old people, probably people more like Eddie and I's age. Well, I'm older than Eddie, but I know, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to include you in the olds category. But, like, the hatred they had for Eduardo Nájera, the hatred OU fans had for, like, Jason Sutherland and Derek Grimm. And, I mean, basketball was more of the hate.
They should hate each other. It's a fellow, like, old Big 8, I guess, rival to a certain extent.
A Big 8.
Missouri, they played Missouri a billion times in a bunch of different sports. I think it's good.
The problem is Missouri's just kind of sucked. You know,
really bad.
When Larry Smith was their coach in football, they sucked. After
Norm Stewart
was gone.
In my lifetime, the only time that they were actually like really good.
Yeah. Derek Chivas and all those
and Gary
people
Pinkel
back in the day.
That program was really good under Gary Pinkel.
Oh,
for a long time.
No, it was. But they get smacked down anytime that they dare challenge Oklahoma for the Big 12.
Yeah. They've always kind of been a little bit of a, I don't know, like maybe
was
like a long lost stepbrother, if you will.
And it was like this was Josh. This was like the claim to fame. It was like, Missouri. They were a good program, and every once in a while they would get a big recruit, and it was Jeremy Macklin, who I'm thinking of, that he was committed to OU at one time. Ended up flipping to Missouri.
That was the big loss.
And that was like they celebrated like they had won the Big 12 when they got that recruiting. But like, that's how Missouri fans, that's how OU fans relate to Missouri fans. That's what they are. They celebrate very small victories.
It's kind of like and God, OU fans are going to hate this, but it's an old Darrell Royal quote I always liked when he was talking about, being at Texas and recruiting against like Rice and Houston. He was like, it's not what they take from Texas, it's what they get in and mess up. Like, OU had Jeremy Macklin. Like, they obviously took Luther Burden away a couple years ago. It's not that day in and day out Missouri is going to go beat Oklahoma in recruiting. It's not going to happen very often. But every once in a while, they sting OU with somebody that OU really wanted and obviously spent a lot of time and energy on.
So anyway, we don't need to spend too much time on that. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. There was a very interesting city council meeting last night that we all got sucked into. Eddie, did you end up watching some of that?
No, not a chance. After reading through your guys' reports in the DMs,
you seemed interested. You're like, are you guys watching this live?
Well,
I thought maybe you would join in.
I thought it was maybe something important, and then, I mean, it is important, but
Eddie
like,
might have broke his laptop watching that.
The what?
You might have broke your laptop watching that.
Just the frustration of it.
I think the city council, just in general, whether it be Norman or Oklahoma City or wherever, probably think they are a little bit more important than they actually are. Just in general. That's not a hit at Norman or anything.
What I took from last night, George...
I don't have much time for it.
What I took from last night, George, was it was a bunch of people trying not to get fired, to get replaced by the citizens of Norman.
Right, and I think it's interesting because there was a couple people that I believe won't even be on city council come July when they were supposed to vote on the new arena. Yeah. And by the way, the news that came out of this is that they are going to have a special election by the public August 27th. Non-binding about the TIF district. Basically, people can come out and vote for or against it, and it doesn't actually hold any weight in terms of what the city council can vote. But
that's like my favorite part about all of this. They're going to have, just so I understand, they're going to have a vote that means nothing.
Well, here's the thing.
Correct.
It puts pressure on the people in city council to know if the citizens in their district oppose this by
a large margin, which
if it's
I
like
think they will.
It might be 90%.
I think it's going to be high.
Isn't this one of those things too that, and I don't know like what the turnout is for something like this usually.
It's like, well,
the people that don't want it are obviously going to go vote.
They said it last night. 63,000 people voted for the mayor in the last election.
And for the actual election.
And I don't think they'll have that big of a turnout. But
I don't know if they'll have 63 people. But when they have
be very one-sided. Look, they had 63 people that wanted to speak last night. Yeah,
yes,
at the meeting.
The thing is when you have these special elections, they are usually tailored to the group that does not want whatever it is to or whatever it is. The people that want it or don't want it, they usually show up in masses. And I think that they're going to show up in masses to vote no on this. And in turn, the city council, I think, will probably vote no because they're not going to go against. Like, it would be a really bad look for the city council to vote against what the public wants.
That makes sense.
And so it's not a. I mean, OU is going to have to really sell the arena and the TIF district in the next couple months or change that, because the biggest gripe, at least in my opinion, was how it's going to be paid for. A lot of people came up there and said, we're not against OU having a new arena.
But we don't know. And another thing was we don't know how this is going to generate money for the city. Like, you haven't told us anything about, if someone buys a concert ticket, how much money does the city get back in fees? Like, those kinds of questions. And I'm not blaming anyone in this situation. I mean, OU and President Harris and Joe Castiglione came up with this plan. It's a little bit of a Hail Mary now that you look at it, because I would say the one thing OU didn't do is all their part in this was saying, oh, there's getting ready to be this vote for this great new arena. Look how beautiful it is and how great this will be for the city of Norman. They didn't go in and do anything like, this is why it benefits the city for you to do this. There was never that approach. It was always pomp and circumstance and or is that even the right phrase? It was basically just, oh, look how beautiful this will be for the city of Norman. But anyone who had the question about, well, why will it be beautiful? None of those questions were answered. And they brought that up last night, and I feel like that's why this is going to fail, is because there's been no education, there's been no outreach. And it's not just the university, it's the developers that are, showing up in this, the people that own the land, that want to get paid, $1 billion to build, buildings in an entertainment district. So they're part of this too, not just OU. But essentially what it comes down to is the city of Norman wants to spend a pool of taxpayer money that is so much greater than anyone in the state of Oklahoma has ever spent. It will be $600 million out of TIF funds. When they were talking about the other highest statewide TIF districts have been like the city of Tulsa spent like $200 million to basically a corporate development project downtown. Like, that's a major city in Oklahoma. This is Norman, Oklahoma, a suburb of Oklahoma City, wanting to spend $1 billion for an entertainment district when the roads are shitty in Norman. You have, all kinds of other issues, infrastructure issues. I don't know how the roads down there would even accommodate that much traffic and those many people on a game day or a big concert venue night. So basically, the city of Norman and the people that spoke last night felt like they'd been hoodwinked, and they're not having this. And when they go to vote, most of them are going to say, we don't want this. So it sounds like this project that OU's been trying to push through is on its deathbed.
It doesn't feel good. I just watching that last night, it seemed pretty clear that there are too many question marks, and there's a lot of...
I think a city councilman called someone an asshole at one point.
I don't know. I must have missed that. But I did not seem like, one, the citizens were behind it. That was pretty clear. And the city council has a lot more questions than answers, and that's usually not good for these type of projects.
And they're scared of the citizens.
Yes. So, I mean, because
they know they hate it that much.
Unless OU and the city and some of the officials that are involved in this can come up with some sort of pitch to sell, the residents on it, or change the way that they're going to fund this project, I don't know if I have a whole lot of faith in this thing actually being passed, which is crazy because a week ago we were talking on here that it felt like it was gonna happen and everything was moving in the right direction and all this
I just
stuff.
Never felt good about it because everything kept getting pushed back,
It's tough because too that I think that they haven't been very transparent about how exactly they're paying for it, how much the university
and how much it's going to hurt,
building
firehouses and police, putting more policemen out there and helping with homelessness. Like you're committing to 25 years of TIF funds going into this project. And one person made a pretty good point. They're getting ready to basically build a brand new arena in Oklahoma City, and that Paycom's been around for like 20 years. So are you going to be paying for something that is obsolete, by the time it's over? Like, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a city question. I know that, we're doing a podcast and it's all OU fans and they don't all live in Norman and they're like, well, just build it. Just build. They need it. Just
That's
build
what
it.
I'm saying. Just build it. Just build it. Build it.
But you don't live in Norman. And you don't.
Norman's a bigger town than I think you give it credit for. You're acting like it's some kind of small podunk town. I agree with you.
$1 billion entertainment district in Norman, though?
I don't know if it
make
needs to be
sense.
$1 million. It doesn't need to be $1 billion. I think they could build a perfectly fine arena for $200 million.
Well, it's $330 for the arena.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be that nice, is what I'm saying. Like, I mean, the
Moody Center.
Moody might be a little bit different because it is Austin and it's a major concert venue.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But the pavilion in Waco, I can't remember what the family's name is. That was $220, right? That's a very nice facility.
You're talking about the new basketball arena?
Yeah, for Baylor.
Yeah. I think it was because the McLean Stadium was like $70 million or something.
Yeah, it's on the
It was
cheap end.
cheap.
It's on the very cheap
But
end.
it looks nice.
It's beautiful.
I do think since
212 is what I'm reading here, Eddie.
For the basketball arena, the Foster, is it
Yep.
Foster?
Yep.
Yes.
Foster Pavilion. I think that is perfect. Eliminate the grand idea. Like, I think that was definitely
no, I am with
an
you.
OU side of things of let's build this extravagant
here's
music facility. It's just
Right.
not serviceable.
But here's the thing, like Eddie, last night, as we were talking about this, Eddie was like, I thought you were for this. And I was like,
No, George said that.
I said that.
Or,
yeah.
or I was like, I have been for this, but I told you guys the whole time, like, the city of Norman, the people that live here, they have their own agendas, and it's not OU-centric.
It's been that's very apparent in every move that the city council makes around here.
Yeah.
Is that they could give a damn about what happens on Saturdays as well as, midweek nights for basketball.
I think the reality of the situation is that it's now that OU has gone 0 for 2 on this entertainment district, or at least it looks like they're going to go 0 for 2. If they want a new arena or they want to do something different, they're just going to have to do it themselves. And I know that's tough to say because they just don't. The money, it's a lot of money to do something like that. And I think, from my understanding, the backup plan is to just renovate the LNC, which I have no idea how much that would cost. I know, Eddie, you said Houston did it.
That's what Houston did with their facility, and it's turned into one of the best
It's beautiful.
arenas in college basketball.
It's also one of those things that I think that if they were to do that, it would take them like at least a year or so to completely, take out everything and
Sure.
redo it. And so that would mean, where does OU play, for maybe 2 years
I think in a
while they
pinch,
renovate it?
McCaslin could be done.
Fieldhouse and Paycom, you just split
Yeah.
them.
I do think
it could be done.
playing in Oklahoma City is also on the table.
I mean, Villanova does it all the time.
Yeah.
UConn plays their home games in New York City.
So
for Christ's sake.
I would assume that is where the focus shifts if this thing goes south. But again, like I said, we won't really know
Till August 27th.
And even August 27th. It's
Nothing's
not,
official, but if it's
the
a
city council could
landslide-
technically, could technically go against the public. But
I didn't get the impression that that's going to happen last night.
this is, and the other thing is this, bottom line, it's been delayed again. And when things like this continue to get delayed or bumps get in the way, like, it's just probably not.
When you guys
gonna happen.
lay it out there, though, like the way that the city council views it, I completely understand where they're coming from. Not like just a
You're
fiscal
tying up.
idiot
You're tying
in
up
terms of
a giant portion. Like,
it doesn't
they
seem
said
like
this
it was,
last night. They did a TIF thing for Campus Corner, and it's all the new sidewalks.
Yeah.
And, and the street lamps, and it's a nicer Campus Corner now. That was only $5 million they put into it. This is $600 million.
Yeah, I mean, it seems almost laughable to even think that it could have been done, just from a Oklahoma standpoint of presenting it like it would be something that was even going to be passed.
Yeah, I mean,
To a certain extent, like that seems moronic to an extent.
yeah, I mean, that was kind of, when you hear the citizens talk about it in city council, you're like, how did they ever think that this was going to fly? But I don't know.
No idea.
I mean, like I said, I think it was a Hail Mary. But if I'm Joseph Harris and I'm Joe Castiglione, I'm already moving on today, trying to figure out what the next steps are. Because you're talking about going on 50 years of Lloyd Noble.
Well, and at the end of the day, that has to be the tone, is like, you can't just say, well, we tried and not do anything ultimately. There has to be more steps than this.
And I think George, he kind of just spoke on it. I mean, I think they are. I mean, I think they have thought,
I think
what
they
if
have
this
a
doesn't
backup
happen?
plan in
Yeah.
place, but I would also say that I think that they're pretty upset by this not happening.
I don't understand.
I don't understand how
they
they can be upset,
Right.
though. Yeah. You were trying to fleece the city of Norman for $600 million.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not them. I'm just telling you what I think that they are not happy about.
It does seem like that is one of those things that is like, how did you think that they were going to pass that? Did you not think that they were going to ask any questions?
And like I said, I said fleece the city. I think it was the developers probably too that were like, oh, well, they need an arena, but then we build this entertainment district around it. Everybody's going to come here. And
I know that like you can't base everything off of renderings. We've had this discussion before, but it doesn't need a fucking yoga studio attached to it. Like the little added stuff just in the rendering, it's like, no, just how about you build an arena?
well,
That's what the ultimate.
I mean, that's what, but that's not. It doesn't make any sense if you build an arena out in the middle of nowhere with nothing around it.
I mean, it's not really that. Like,
I mean, but
that
I mean,
goes,
like, you know what they're doing in baseball, like the Atlanta Braves. Like, I've been out there. They build these things around stadiums.
OU basketball is not the Atlanta Braves.
But I mean, Kansas City, if they put their stadium,
they're not a professional organization.
I know, but at the same time, they're paying as much as a professional organization does to build these things.
And that's what I'm saying. They shouldn't just build something for $200 million.
Well, yeah, like what's the land over there north of like the rugby fields? Can you not build a $300 or $200 million arena over there? Like right off of.
I don't have a problem with the location.
But I'm saying if you leave Lloyd Noble as it is and you're going to bulldoze it maybe someday, I don't know, start building your arena just north of it. Like, is that not university property right there, or is that city property? I don't know. I know you
just
don't know.
North of it. What do you mean?
Or south of it, just south
George,
of it.
Well, I thought the whole idea of moving the facility was to get people from Oklahoma City to come down to the games. You're just going to be building it further.
That's like you remember the rumor when they said when they had that big ammunition mound out there before they tore it down to build you. Like people always started rumors like, what was it, like Josh is like Phillips 66 or Conoco is pledged $2 billion to build the new Owen Field out on the highway, so it's easier for people to get to the games. Like that was a thing for years and years. Like this was back in the 90s, I think, when that was floating around.
I was going to say, I only remember like remnants of that. Like I do remember those conversations, but like it was more my dad relaying it to me kind of stuff. Like I don't really remember it that well.
I can see your dad buying into that.
The thing I will say, and I will say, I said something about on the podcast last week. I made some reference to like George had something about his dad being kind of a psycho OU fan. And I made a reference like I can relate. And my dad was like, what the hell does that mean? Like I kind of got called out on it. So want to give dad a shout out there. But what I do want to ask, guys, like, and again, you guys know all this stuff way better than I do. Obviously, you're more kind of boots on the ground and, going to these Board of Regents meetings.
I welcome this because I know the fans are going to have the same question. We're getting in the comment section, all that stuff on the board. People are probably going to ask the same things that you're going to want to ask here. So I welcome this.
Yeah. My question is like, what does it say that it seems like Oklahoma, the university was a little blindsided by this? Like, did they not have a good read of the temperature of the room? Like, I don't know what to make of that they seem so surprised when Carey, you act like this doesn't surprise me at all.
I think it's kind of just university thinking.
But I also think I think that this was a situation. The whole reason they're doing a TIF is because it wouldn't go to a public vote. And so I think that they had either, and I don't know this for a fact, I'm just assuming, that they had some sort of agreement behind the scenes with a majority of the city council that this thing was going to go through.
And the developers.
Right. And I think that they thought they could get away with it because it was going to be a TIF. Well,
it comes out criminal when you put it like that.
Yes. And so, and then a week before, or literally, what is today? June 12th. 2 days before it goes to the city commissioner for approval or whatever, city commission, which it was expected to go through, city council has a new meeting pop up about, let's take this to the public. They found basically a loophole to get it to the public. Like, I think that OU misread that they were going to be able to get it by the public.
Yeah. And I mean, what did I say? You remember what I said during the softball celebration? What I thought was so weird and
the mayor,
that the mayor spoke before Joe Castiglione at that thing. They had Joseph Harris first speaker, Mayor Halaka second, and then Joe Castiglione. I was like, how much are they trying to get in his pocket? Like, it's just it. I don't.
And the mayor is one of the biggest.
He was shaking his head at
components of this thing. He wants this arena and entertainment.
And every time someone would come up and speak and say something negative, he would just shake his head.
Yeah,
it was
probably because those people suck. To be honest with you.
I'm sure that they hate every issue that comes, every TIF issue that comes up. I mean, I'm sure those same
I
people
think that
are
there's
there.
probably a lot of those people that could give a damn about what happens at the University of Oklahoma, and particularly the athletic side of things.
They're called citizens of Norman. They don't. Not everyone in Norman. It's not. This isn't Fansville, Eddie. I mean, like,
I know these people suck. That's what I'm saying.
One of them,
they're the same people that didn't want to build they're the same ilk of people that didn't want to build the arena in Oklahoma City.
But see, you say
they're
that.
the 100%.
Actually, they're not. No, I don't think.
Like they have green hair instead of blue.
There was a lot of colored hair last night.
I'm sure there was.
One of them was my econ teacher.
Well, that tells you everything you need to know.
Well, you could tell several of them were professors. There was one lady that had an OU shirt on, and she was
That was
against
her.
it. Yeah. Oh, that was her?
Yeah, she goes to every city council meeting.
I mean, get a life. Go do something else. Do something else than hang out at city council meetings.
That's a sect of people I don't trust. If you go to a lot of
100%.
city
Our
council
class was
meetings
also
and
really
you're not a
hard.
media member, I don't trust you.
Microeconomics.
I remember her saying that last night.
These people suck.
All right. I think
They need to have a better plan, though. Like at the end of the day, they need an arena. You need to have a better plan.
Yeah.
It's a culmination of years and years and years of kicking the can down the road. The time has come. You got to do something. Get a good plan.
But Josh, initially to your question, it is bizarre that they were not either aware or thought that it wouldn't be a big deal to have like triple the highest TIF funded project in the history of the state and expect that, it's just going to go through because the public's not going to vote on it. So whoever was responsible for that thinking, we have some questions.
The way George put it, I mean, there's some Goodfellas vibe to the way this is getting described. Like somebody had greased the wheels behind the scene. I know that's not what you guys are saying at all, but that's
but
what
he's
it sounds
100%
like.
right. I mean, the only reason they thought that this was, and maybe this was the developers explaining it to university leaders, and they were just trusting them. But I don't think this was the first city council meeting with this discussed. So.
Yeah.
It's just a bad look.
I did look up to see Houston's arena renovation, see how much it cost, and they did it, I think, in, what's it say here, 2018? Is that right?
It sounds right.
That's what I saw the completion date, yeah.
$60 million. So, I mean, that's affordable, I think, for Oklahoma.
I think, too, at the same time, there's also a discussion to be had just in terms of, like, kind of going back to the Presti thing. It's like, if OU has all of this, or supposedly doesn't have any of this money, but it's always reported that they're in great financial standing, at some point you're going to have to spend a little money to make a little in the end.
Go into debt.
No, I'm not saying go into debt, but I'm saying everybody else can buy this new shit. OU's not a broke university.
I'm with you. I've always said, don't be proud of being in the black, not in the red.
Yeah.
Like if you're one of three programs that is historically in the black, you're probably not doing it right. Like go into a little bit of, I've always had that opinion.
I also though,
you're a university. You're not a Fortune 500 company. People give you money.
It's
for nothing, no reason.
Yes,
Sorry.
but I think that the problem again is, like we've said, they've put it on the back burner and they just have other projects. I mean, they have to get the baseball stuff done. I've been informed that I think at the next Board of Regents meeting, we're going to get some sort of update on renovations to the football stadium, which I'm assuming will be quite expensive. So it's like you add $100 million renovation to the LNC. It's like, where exactly is that $100 million coming from?
Yeah, I get it.
And you've got all the NIL stuff that you're starting to build.
I get it. I just feel like with all this money and the billions of dollars that are being brought in with TV contracts and stuff, you can find money if you really want to try to build something.
But also that TV money isn't really coming in for another couple years.
Sure.
So it's like, I think that, again, it's going to take
I know
some time.
it's way more complicated than we probably even realize or do realize to the extent of what we're talking. I just feel like if there really was an actual concerted effort to try to get this done, I think that it would be able to get done.
I'm just thinking of like, if we brought, like Dylan or Alex down here from the Sooner Club and had this discussion in front of them, they'd be like, it's really hard to raise money for this. Like, no, I know you're saying there's got to be $60 million, but they're trying. Like, Sooner Club, all these people are trying to get money for this stuff. It's just they know what they can get.
It also does not help that the basketball team hasn't made the NCAA tournament.
There's
the last 3 years.
There's
no support,
no motivation for people to, and the times that they've had, when they've gone to Final Fours, they haven't been able to, or they haven't, put things together. Anyway, I think we'll call this the C-SPAN portion of the podcast and move on. Obviously, there was an issue with the vision of that project.
Never mind.
When are we what?
Well, I thought to close out the C-SPAN portion, we could talk about Hunter Biden's
Okay.
3 felony convictions on Monday, but if that's neither here nor there.
I now question Eddie's vision for the first time ever. Not as much as thinking that you could pass a $600 million, tax tiff, but it is the Enjoy vision, fresh perspective look around, and we need a palate cleanser. We need some fresh perspective after all that heavy City of Norman talk. Eddie, what's the future say in your vision?
Well, I mean, if Hunter needs vision before he gets locked up, maybe we could hook him up with Enjoy Vision, which is the best laser vision center of Oklahoma City. It's not even close. The combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care was life-changing for me. What they're doing for the Unofficial 40 listener is they're giving $400 off of LASIK. If you are interested, go to enjoywithme.com. That is the letter NJOY with me.com, and use promo code U40, Enjoy Vision. This is where you LASIK. Definitely would have seen the charges coming, right? Or maybe
I would hope so.
Maybe he would have had laser vision. He could have seen the camera that was recording him while he was making all these allegations to prostitutes.
We haven't had an Eddieism in a while. Was that combination in there? Did he say combination?
Possibly. Combination.
I love it. I'm Eddie, when you do these things, you make them seem almost like they fit. They almost work. So I'm not. It's definitely not a call out. I just think that is. That's what I heard. So I'm interested to see if the fans and listeners heard it as well.
How are we doing on Toa Katoa's actual first name?
Haven't tried. Won't be trying.
It's just the two puns or whatever that is at the beginning that it makes it confusing.
I can say I can spell it. I think that counts for something.
Papunga Toa Katoa. I think it's because you have to do the Toa so quick back to back.
Yeah, I can't do it. I have to look at it.
Papunkatoa. If you see it, it's a lot easier. It's kind of like Radosevich. You can sound that out.
Yeah, I had the same problem with Tua Tagovailoa. I had to see the word to figure it out.
Some people are just supposed to be known by one name. Tua's one of them, and maybe Katoa's one of them.
I would prefer Toa. If he's
I
just
think
going to
Toa
go
sounds kind of badass.
Yeah, Toa. Just referring to him as Toa, no matter what. Like
Toa
great
Katoa's
block by
pretty
Toa.
sick.
Yeah.
Now he went.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's his username on Twitter. It's
like
Toa
it.
Katoa.
It's Toa Katoa.
So I don't think he would be mad about that.
I think it's Toa _Katoa. Now he went to.
I think that's right.
By the way, Josh is getting ready to head back to Oklahoma. We did a massive recruiting report yesterday. Go check it out. I think we had 24 total players or something like that on there.
Yeah,
featured?
24.
So if you want to see some of the guys, we're going to be back at it tomorrow with more recruiting reports. Been really proud of those. Just for you guys to be able to get that type of coverage from us, that's kind of what I've always dreamed of, and it'll even get better. So go check out the YouTube channel, just youtube.com/SoonerScoop, and subscribe. That's the important thing. The more people subscribe, the more we can, flash that as a badge of honor to get better guests on. So that's what people don't realize. It's not about making more money, but get that. We know just from analytics, like more than half the people that are watching the videos aren't subscribers. So we need you to go and subscribe, bump up those numbers if you watch, because that really helps us. And we've been climbing. I think we're about in the last year we've gained almost 10,000 subscribers. So. Would really appreciate you guys going and subscribing to our YouTube channel. But, Josh, speaking of Toa Katoa, Bill Bedenbaugh, I think Bill Bedenbaugh's had some reaction to the conversation that happened with him and Toa on the recruiting report.
Yeah, that was the vibe around camp, and Eddie can probably add more color to it than I can. But that was definitely not lost on some members of the OU staff. It came up a few times, that little blurb that I hope everyone has seen of us realizing in real time on last week's recruiting report that Bill Bedenbaugh was smiling.
Crushing hard.
To a level I've never seen him smile over Toa Katoa.
It was hard not to watch his production at camp on, I guess, last Thursday and not smile. That guy is a mountain of a man.
But I'll say this. I mean, it has been, I don't know, Josh, maybe one of the best parades of offensive linemen in a summer camp setting that's come through here in the last week.
I would go as far to say that just like the two camps have been like the best camps just in general of attendance and then guys that earned offers. I think we're up to 15 or 16 now that we've had in the last couple of years, just in terms of like overall, you walk away and go, damn, that was worth it. That was really, really good.
Yeah, Saturday was one of the best days of camp I can remember. Like I thought that, and it was because it was good at multiple positions. You know, we have lots of camp sessions where it's really good at one spot, another. Like, you know, tomorrow, and I know we'll get into it a little bit, the quarterback's going to be really, really good. There's going to be 4 or 5 guys there that can really sling it. And then other than that, like there's a player at offensive line. There's a couple of guys at defensive line. You have bits and pieces, but I thought just there were so many waves of good players, and some will never get OU offers. But you were watching them, and you're just like, that dude can play, that dude can play. I mean, there were a lot of Power 5 guys there, whether they got OU offers or not.
You know, you guys were talking about, you were talking about the Shanks kid, and, you know, kind of the burst that I saw, or you saw, and I remember walking up, and you kind of mentioned it, but I think the exact thing that I told you was, well, that's how that's supposed to look. Like, when you saw him run through the tackling dummies, he didn't flinch. It's just like, and it barely affected him at all. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that kid has something. But I will say, from the film, of all the things that I've seen over the last 2 recruiting reports, seeing Jason Witten's kid turn and run, like the explosion in that kid's thighs and just legs, that to me on film was the most impressive thing I've seen the last 3 sessions. Or 2 sessions. I guess 3.
It's like genetics matter. Like that guy. I mean, because I know a lot of people probably remember. Yeah, because obviously we have a lot of younger listeners. They probably remember like late career Jason Witten. They don't understand that Jason Witten was a freak. I mean, like just one of those, people, they'll talk about Tony Gonzalez and all that sort of stuff. Jason Witten was a top 3 or 4 tight end in the NFL for years. I mean, just a outstanding player. So that I guess it just shouldn't surprise me. But I'm with you, Carey, because I was literally, as we were watching that, I was taking it in for the first time because I had to leave and I didn't get to see him work. Eddie messages me as kind of I'm at the airport and he's like, there's some kid here who looks really, really good. No, and as we find out, it's Cooper Witt.
That's not what I said, because I sent the text message initially to my mom accidentally. They were like back to back. And there was some white kid that was really, really good during the afternoon session. And it ended up being.
I did omit the skin color. I did. You're right.
That kid, he was really impressive. And considering that he's still relatively young, I think it was probably notable that they were the first offer for him as well. I thought that was really cool.
Is he going into his junior year?
Yeah, okay. 2027, I believe.
No, he'd just be going into his sophomore year.
He's just going into his sophomore
year.
Right.
That's
wow.
Right. 27, yeah.
Yep.
That's impressive. Okay, so we got to see, you broke down, go watch the film. Like I said, the DBs, Tristan Haynes was there. Got to see him, work out with Makari Vickers. And that'll be interesting too. Will Makari Vickers be able to coach, or will they take him off?
I think he has to work every session now. That's like going to be part of his punishment. He's going to be outside.
Jay Valai gets to yell at him, when every player takes a wrong step in their drills or something like.
Yeah, the one added offer that we didn't talk about that ended up getting an offer yesterday, Josh, was the Cortavius Tisby kid, and I think we did talk about him on the recruiting report. He just didn't have the offer yet.
Yeah. I was going to say we referenced him a couple of times. I mean, and that's guys. I've got to sit there and do the official count, but that's got to be like 8 new offensive line offers in the last week, and all were campers. And Tisby was a guy that I talked about a little yesterday, but the biggest, longest guy. I mean, I wouldn't say he was as long as Felix Ojo, but he's in that conversation. I mean, he is 6'6", long legs, long arm, going to have to fill out a lot, but when you talk about raw tools, like there's some stuff there. Now, what is interesting about him is I was talking to his kind of his O-line trainer and some of the other guys around him, and I think that was just an offer he really wanted, and I got the impression that maybe he was doing some stuff during the camp that he doesn't normally do, and I don't mean that as like he went above and beyond. I meant I think he was almost a little nervous, like he was pressing a little bit. So there's part of me that wonders if OU kind of went back, watched some tape, kind of went over things, and then said, okay, yeah, we're ready to go ahead and make that offer. And again, this is something Bill Bedenbaugh's done a few times. I referenced it yesterday, talking about Ryan Foje, where they waited like a month and a half and then just said, hey, we were going to go ahead and offer this guy. So it's not always, if it doesn't happen at camp, it just doesn't happen. And I also do want to say, Evan Goodwin, I misread his tweet. I just had his tweet different in my head. He got an offer. I don't know why I said he didn't. I think every guy always said that the offer tweets are almost always the same. They read the same basically, and his read different. And it wasn't like in the first line. So I was like, oh, well, he didn't get an offer. And that was my mistake. And wanted
somebody
to correct
on YouTube
that.
yelled at you too. So.
Yeah, they did. They did. And I'll own it. They were right.
It's up to 6 offensive line offers. Tissaby, Goodwin, Riordan, Primus, Vincent Johnson, Brian Swanson.
From camp, you're saying?
From camp, yeah. 16 offers total from camp so far through the first 2, I guess, days or sessions, whatever you want to call it. Trey Taylor, the 2027 quarterback. 2 running back offers, Tyson Robinson, Micah Rhodes. 3 wide receiver offers, Delvin Cook Jr., the Bonwell Whitty kid from South Dakota, which is kind of an interesting story, and Jalen Pyle, formerly of South Lake Wright, over at Parish Episcopal now in the DFW area. And then 2 defensive linemen, Joseph Terry, he might be the best that we've seen so far, just in terms of the 16 offers. The kid from Cherry Creek, Colorado, the Uma Kais kid, and then Jordan Deck and Cooper Witten.
Yeah, and the guy you mentioned was it Bonwell Witt? I think I'm just getting used to his name.
Yeah, the kid from South Dakota.
The receiver. Yeah, the kid from South Dakota. Had a chance to talk with him a little bit last night. Really interesting story. A guy that, because obviously not the area that Emmett Jones is known to recruit, and he had some connection. He actually was a guy that knew Chuck Lilly from when Chuck Lilly was at Kansas State.
Interesting.
And that was kind of how he got down to camp. Was Chuck was like, "Hey, we want you to come work out. I want Emmett to look at you, that kind of stuff." So, and at the same time, he's already got a K-State offer, picked up a Nebraska offer, I believe, the day after Oklahoma's. Guys, I went looking through it, and I think you're going to have to go back a little ways to find a guy from South Dakota or North Dakota, like a skill guy that had that many Power 5 offers going into their junior year. Like we've seen some big guys, the Farniaks, kind of go through down the line a little bit, but it's pretty rare that a guy like, a skill guy from the Dakotas is picking up this kind of notoriety.
All right, so tomorrow, another big camp. As you guys have mentioned, Eddie mentioned this as well. It's the last time that we'll see Kevin Sperry working out at an OU football camp because he's got the Elite 11 coming up, but he'll be joined and probably going to be good for us just to get to see some side-by-side comparisons, but a big quarterback prospect coming in alongside Kevin Sperry tomorrow.
Yeah, there are 3 big-time quarterbacks that'll be there tomorrow. Obviously, Kevin Sperry. And like you said, Carey, it's so nice that we have that base level of Kevin Sperry. Like, we know what it's supposed to look like. We know he's going to go out there. And then he'll be joined by Jaden O'Neal, who's confirmed he'll be there. And he's been all over the country, Miami, Florida State, Colorado. I think he still has a couple more visits to take. And, from everything I've gathered, looked really well. I was told the Florida State visit went well, talking to some people. I still like where Oklahoma is there. For those that don't know, this is a top 100 quarterback out of Southern California, kind of in the Newport Beach area, for those who are familiar with the Orange County. He is big. He's athletic. I'm really interested to see him next to Kevin Sperry. I think that's going to be a really good like you said, kind of a side by side. But I don't want it to go forgotten that Peyton Houston, the 2027 quarterback from Shreveport Evangel, who the last time Oklahoma signed a quarterback there, Carey, that will ring a bell for you, was Brent Rawls.
Yes.
That's how. I mean,
I saw
dude.
Todd Lisenby today saying the top 5 off-season controversies.
Yeah.
Brent Rawls was not included, and he might be number 1 because Brent Rawls.
The great Bunky Perkins did mention him as somebody that should get a little bit of a monument.
The thing that, and technically Rhett Bomar was off-season because it happened right before the start of camp.
Yeah.
But the great thing about Brent Rawls, he falls out of the back of a truck.
He's in front of the Fiji House, right?
I said I wouldn't say whose truck it was. Sworn to secrecy. Fell out of somebody's truck and got injured partying too hard. And I think what I'd heard is that Bob Stoops had issued an edict to the team, like, don't get in trouble.
It was during the first week of school, right? I think it was during the first week of school.
It was flat out off season.
It was during school. School had started.
No, I can tell you why I know that it hadn't started.
Well, kids were back on campus because there was a house party.
You know what? It was probably rush week or something like that, where school hadn't started, but everybody had been back on campus. I bet it was the end. You know what it was? It was the end of summer workout. So they had 2 weeks, and it was Bob knew, you guys have finished working out with Schmitty. The hardest part is over. Keep your noses clean. Don't get in trouble. What does Brent Rawls do? He goes out and falls out of the back of a truck, causes a big scene. I think the cops came. There was a big investigation. And Bob Stoops never had done this before. During the offseason, he was famous for not letting us talk to anyone during the offseason. No players could do interviews, all that stuff. He would disappear, basically. He issued a statement saying that Brent Rawls was now the 4th-string quarterback because there was a big you remember this, Josh? During that spring game,
I do.
Brent Rawls was so good that people were, and this was Jason White was coming back for his 6th year, but Brent Rawls was so good, people were questioning a Heisman winner even. Or maybe that was before he won the Heisman, the year before the Heisman. It must have been. But
it would have been it happened the week of the Saturday or Sunday leading into the week of September 15th. So school was definitely in session because this story from Thursday, September 19th, 2002, says that a concussion suffered during the weekend will delay the return of Oklahoma backup quarterback Brent Rawls. Rawls, a redshirt freshman, was hurt when he fell out of the back of a pickup truck Saturday night or early Sunday morning.
So, but Bob Stoops issued a statement saying that one of his players had fallen all the way to the bottom of the depth chart. He was so disgusted with him. Never did anything like that before or after in his career as head coach.
Great line at the end of this article. Freshman Paul Thompson will continue as the backup to Nate Hibble. Thompson played about a quarter and a half against Texas El Paso on Saturday.
I'm reading a story by George Schroeder when Brent Rawls signed with the Bossier Shreveport Battle Wings. School was definitely not my calling, he said at a news conference Thursday in Bossier City. I'm definitely going to enjoy being able to play without worrying about having to go to school. That's for sure.
It's beautiful. What a story.
Oh, that's great.
There's a column in the OU Daily from September 26th.
Read the headline. The headline's great.
Don't let the door hit you, Rawls.
So good.
Oh, Lord.
I would have to say that, just in terms of off-season controversies, which I think is kind of a fun pod we could do maybe during the summer. But Joe Mixon's number 1, without a doubt, since I've been covering the team.
Yes.
And not in a good way.
No, it was an awful situation. But just in terms of the controversy that arose from everything that was out there, everything that we kind of had to fend against after, only the select few media members were allowed to even watch the video, and what we saw compared to what was out there in the narrative as, social media, I think was really starting to pick up. That was insane.
What about when did the trio get arrested? Was that in the summer?
The Cali trio?
No, the Mikey Anderson and Trajan Bridges. And those guys.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I think that was the summer.
That was right before spring ball because because Mikey played in the spring game and everybody freaked out about he's clean. And Seth and Trajan didn't. Okay. And it was a whole thing.
And it was a worst kept secret that Mikey Henderson was involved in in that.
I remember somebody saying they saw him on the sidelines, and you could tell like he didn't look like he was not checked into the game at all. He was absolutely like, "Are the police going to come while I'm here on the sideline?"
That was All right, good times.
There used to be a lot more controversy.
I like the
controversy.
I like the good controversy, not the one where it makes you question, like the Joe Mixon one, just made you question humanity a little bit. That people would make excuses for, that situation. It's just, it was gross, and I'm glad. I would never want to live through that again. I think that took years out of especially Bob Stoops, took years off my life.
I'll get us back on track. This started with a quarterback from Shreveport Evangel, Peyton Houston.
God. Thanks, Josh.
2027 guy. Yeah. If I'm guessing, if he goes out and throws it like I think he will tomorrow, I'm going to guess Oklahoma doubles their 2027 quarterback offers. He'll join Trey Taylor, and, Oklahoma can kind of read the room, see where they want to go. Trey seems very excited. I think he'll be back at some point in the pretty near future for another visit. I think Oklahoma really impressed him. He liked Seth Luttrell. Peyton Houston's making his second trip up. He was in Norman for the spring game. My impression, and again, this is not like, insider knowledge. This is just me kind of reading the tea leaves. I think it was basically told to him at that point, hey, come work out, let us watch you throw. If that's all good, then full speed ahead kind of thing. So, because I know Seth Luttrell went down and saw him this spring. There's been plenty of contact, and this is a guy that clearly likes Oklahoma a lot. I think it's reciprocated. So again, Kevin Sperry, Jaden O'Neal, Peyton Houston, all three in very different places, but all three are, names Oklahoma fans need to remember.
Okay, so that is the headliner. What else do we know at this point in terms of guys, maybe that could end up with offers, or guys with offers that you're just looking forward to see tomorrow?
Yeah, I would say, and this again, I say this all the time, but it won't surprise anybody. An offensive lineman leads the way for me. Maxwell Robinson, a big offensive lineman from Derby, Kansas.
Ooh, Derby.
He is going to come down in camp. He already holds an offer. It's a guy that Oklahoma clearly likes a lot.
Wait, what's his name again?
Maxwell Robinson,
Okay.
the double last name. So
I had a baseball roommate from Derby, so I was making sure it wasn't his son or something.
Oh, gotcha. And joining him is Jordan Caraway, a big 2027 offensive lineman from Forney, Texas. Doesn't have an offer, but a big guy. He's a guy I had a chance to watch last year. He is teammates with Javian Osborne, the big-time running back that I've talked a lot about on the different recruiting reports. So Caraway, like another one of these, 6'5", 320-pound freshman, just a massive kid. I believe Alex Shieldnight's going to be there working out tomorrow, so that'll be interesting to see. I need to confirm it with Alex. Alex is exactly who you think he is. Like, sometimes he's very good about getting back to me, and then sometimes you're like, he might have dropped his phone in a river bed somewhere. Like, there's never any telling when he's going to get back to you and what he's going to want to talk about. So Alex he'll surprise you. But there's a couple other guys. Caden Henderson is a outside linebacker from Florida that is expected to be there. He's another guy that I Oklahoma likes a lot. I think that could be a name that people need to remember. And the last, I'm going to butcher his name, is Marcus Fakatu, Fakatou. So do with that what you will. Listed as an athlete, maybe this is another Joseph Terry, and he's going to show up as a 260-pound defensive lineman. I don't think so, but definitely another guy to keep an eye on. But those are kind of the premier guys, and then you throw in guys like Dejon Green, Cord Nolan from Bixby that I've talked a lot about. There are probably a dozen guys overall that are going to have our attention tomorrow.
You mentioned dropping a cell phone in the river. You know, one thing that you will never catch me doing? I would never be a magnet fisherman. You know, the people that do the videos of like going to a creek somewhere and they throw a big magnet in there and they like catch stuff, and it's usually like a bicycle, or like sometimes it's like guns that people like throw in, that might have committed a crime, and then they have to call the cops.
Where's this going?
I'm telling a story, George. This is called entertaining the folks out there. All right. So, like every once in a while, though, they're like, "Oh, this is something wrapped up in chains. Oh, it looks like a rib cage," and then like the video cuts off. Like I would never want to be in that situation.
Noted.
Shut up.
That is a
Cell
that's
phone
a
in the river.
wild
That made me
connection
think of
there.
that.
We've got you down. George, make note of that. You're
I
the,
was so
secretary
confused
here.
because Josh was like just ripping off all these like guys we're gonna see, and you just came in and it's like I would never be a magnet fisherman.
Well,
Like,
he said
felt
he talked
totally-
about the guy not being able to reach a guy, and maybe his phone was in a river. He had dropped his phone in a river. So you weren't listening to Josh. I was. There.
I think I just chose to listen to the important parts of what Josh was saying.
Your sports animal schedule has just dried up.
It was already dry.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I think I won't be surprised if there's just tons of great offensive linemen there tomorrow. I mean, it sounds like the number is finally going to dwindle a little bit, but and it is like have you been kind of surprised that we've seen that many defensive linemen come in that can play? Because we all know there's not as many out there. Does that say that Todd Bates is doing a really good job at just at least talking those guys into coming?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and there will I don't know if you guys remember. The main reason I remember this guy is because he played at Michigan State, but he did play in the NFL. A guy named Robert Smith. He was defensive end. His son is a pretty big time recruit over in Ridge Point here in the kind of Houston suburbs. He'll be there tomorrow. I don't think he is a guy that is a no doubt offer for OU, but I guarantee he's a guy they're going to watch closely and kind of see what happens from there. But
how about Rocky Bright's kid?
Yeah,
I almost fell
don't
out of
know if
my
everybody
chair
saw
realizing that he has a kid that's going to be a freshman in high school. I mean, it makes sense.
That
It's not
makes
crazy.
me feel very old.
I know.
So you have like the former players' kids that are in high school. Like you're going to get older and you're going to have like people you went to high school with that's kids are graduating college. Then you're going to feel
that sucks.
You're still young. I'm trying to tell you.
I just remember Rocky
The
Bright.
one that blows my mind is Jason Carter's son, because like Jason Carter and I were like, I was 2 years older than Jason, and like we hung out some like on official visits. Like he'd come by the house and we'd hang out and stuff. Like and Kiwan, the whole deal. And now he's got us, and Caden as well. It's the same deal. Them being that old just blows me away. Like I can't even process that information.
Didn't Rocky Bright start out with John Blake? Would he been recruited by John Blake?
I think there would have been some overlap, but maybe a year. I can't remember if he was.
I want to say
age as
he
my
was
cousin.
the guy that got knocked out in that Texas A&M game that was like ridiculously cold late at night.
I don't remember. I want to say Rocky Bright would have been in that like 95-ish, 96, 97 territory, if that makes it right.
Because I remember him playing in that Northwestern game in Chicago.
Yeah.
Gary, do you remember that? Like 98
or 97.
97 maybe?
Yeah. What a season opener that was. Just another kick in the balls.
Yeah,
for OU
And
fans
that
back
was
then.
Blake,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because I remember
Justin Fuente was the quarterback.
Yeah, and that's when Northwestern or like OU's headsets didn't work, and
Oh, yeah. I forgot
Gary
about that.
Barnett
Yeah.
wouldn't turn off
Yeah,
his.
he was
Rocky
not
Bright.
gentlemanly.
Rocky Bright played 1997 to 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, so he would have been in that A&M game.
Yeah.
I mean, so Kewan Jones doesn't make you feel old? Like, he's,
Not really, but it's all kind of relative. It's about all the same time period. I mean, he does. Yeah, for sure makes me feel old. Definitely.
Sam's kids getting to high school. That'll be when you feel old.
He has 4 kids now, if that makes you feel old.
Oh my God.
People having kids doesn't make me feel old. It's when
They're all young, though.
It's when they start driving and graduating from high school. That's when you feel old. All right. Josh, is there anything you want to hit on about tomorrow? Because I did want to talk to the guys in here a little bit about the schedule release, the SEC schedule release that happened yesterday as well.
I will say, I
Totally forgot that happened.
just in terms of like wrapping up on Saturday stuff, to realize that Quelly Fielder and Josiah Dickerson are both going to be freshmen in high school, I don't think I have been able to like wrap my mind around that yet. Josiah Dickerson, just based on like what he looks like alone, He's good for 2,000 next year in 2A.
Yeah, just run on the corner behind Nate Roberts. Like
Right.
I've got a feeling that you're going to find room.
Now
like,
it's
going to work.
I think we got a YouTube comment that they're 3A. People were upset.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, they are 3A. Yeah.
My bad. Did they move up this past year? Because they played 2A last year. Didn't they?
No, they played 3A because they.
I thought it was 2A because
Who did they beat in the state finals?
Heritage Hall was 3A.
I thought.
They played
Yeah,
Millwood,
because
right?
Wagner and Blanchard played in 4A.
Did they beat Millwood?
Yes.
Yeah,
Washington?
they beat Millwood, who I know
That's-
is 2A.
That's 2A.
So
You're right.
YouTube commenter?
So unless they
moved
they
up.
might have moved up the classifications. I never pay attention to that stuff until it matters, but maybe they did. I just am not aware of that if they did. They've been because they'd won multiple 2A state championships consecutively.
They've won a bunch of state champ. Like Eddie, do you remember we were down there last spring? Like they'd won in baseball, basketball. They were
Powerhouse
You could tell
in
they were
softball.
just starting to go nuts.
All right. But anyway, back to the point, just wrapping up. I think you were trying to wrap up Saturday. And
Oh, just like Quelly Fielder still kind of blows my mind. He's going to be incredible if he can stay on the right track. Obviously, he needs to lose some bad weight, but you start looking at like 28 and 27, certainly to a certain extent. It just feels like all of these guys, you go down the list of all the offensive linemen that they've offered, you ain't getting in any 6'2", 280 guys that need to add a little bit of weight. They're all massive, massive human beings.
Well, and it forgets they made their first 2028 offer on Saturday. Micah Rhodes from Klein Oak, Cortland Guillory's teammate. Like, I don't know that enough people are talking about that. He is their first offer in that class and did so over, like you said, Dickerson. They did so over Quelly Fielder. This guy, and guys, if there's a coach on staff that's less likely to buy into hype than DeMarco Murray, I don't know him. Like, DeMarco must have really liked that dude.
yeah, and his standards are ridiculously high.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Josh, anything else you wanted to hit on before you get on that plane tonight and head this way tomorrow or tonight?
No, there's nothing pressing. I mean, again, I know people keep asking, like, and I feel like we had the same conversation last summer. Just wait. Once these officials end, we're going into a big weekend. Obviously, this weekend, OU's got, I believe, I think 9 confirmed visitors, something like that this weekend. I mean, you've got Michael Fasusi, you've got Ty Haywood. I mean, you've got some big names coming in this weekend for their official visits. Floyd Boucard, who apparently really loved his USC visit last weekend, with Steve Wiltfong putting in a prediction in for him. So there's a lot coming up this weekend, but don't come out of this weekend with no commitments and be like, oh, you blew it. Don't be that guy. Just wait. Let's get into, really late June, early July. That's when we'll start figuring out what's really going to happen here.
All right, and the SEC, really life in the SEC starts out for fans fantastic knowing that they're this organized. That it was June 11th yesterday, and look, you didn't get every single game time, but you got ballpark game times on some of the games that aren't set in stone. But two possibilities of an 11 a.m. kickoff,
And one's on the road.
and one's on the road at Ole Miss, which, the Grove, maybe that's a little bit of a downer. I think people wanted to be able to experience that tailgate. They'll just have to get there a little bit earlier. But it could be at noon. Possible it's a noon start, possible it's an 11 o'clock start. But, George, just kind of what stood out to you most about seeing the schedule release or the time release?
I think you have to start with the early kickoffs. If you only have one 11 a.m. home 11 a.m. kickoff game, that's pretty good. I think that's great for the fans. I think we as media enjoy the early kickoffs because we get to go home at a reasonable hour. But I think it's exciting to know that there's a lot of games that they could have at night or at kind of in that prime time slot of sometime between 2:30 and 3:30 in the afternoon, which I also enjoy those games. But I think that it's awesome. And the SEC treats it a lot like the NFL. I mean, the NFL releases their schedule in May with the times, and obviously they have the ability to flex games later in the season. But I think that even having somewhat of a time window, at least knowing like, okay, this game's not going to be in the morning, you can schedule around it, I think is super helpful, and especially for a lot of the road games too, for people that want to travel. So I thought it was awesome. And I think the stat that was thrown out there was last time OU didn't play a single 11 a.m. game in a season was 2010. Last time they played 2 in a season was 2017, which was also the last time OU Texas was at 2:30.
Yeah, I just couldn't be more impressed just with the overall, I don't know, outreach is the right word, but just the way the SEC, from SEC meetings to schedule release to what they're doing, July 1st and Paul Feinbaum here, and, Dari Noka coming up to Tulsa, I know, to do the thing with Switzer in the morning and for breakfast. But just, we kind of sense this, guys, like when we went to Tennessee a year ago, like it felt like a professional sports organization, the SEC, and they've done nothing to convince me that they're anything less than that over the last year.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily that the Big 12 was run poorly in that sense. I think that the Big 12 did a good job. I just think that the SEC, it's a little bit smoother operation, and I think it's because they have more people working. I mean, there's several points of contact for media if you want to, go to certain events or whatever it is, and I think that they do just a really good job of that. So, and I think they also just understand what the fans want. The fans want to know when the team is playing as early as possible, and when the Big 12 would have, and it's not just the Big 12, other conferences would do it too, the 6-day window situation, that's just a pain in the ass for everybody. And that's not to say that there isn't a chance that, late in the season when OU is playing, Alabama, that, we won't know the exact kickoff time until, a week or two before. I think that's possible because they are in that 2:30 to 3:30 or 5 to 7 area, but at least hey, it's going to be in the afternoon or evening.
Well, it's like the LSU game. It's like, okay, so now it's an evening game. Maybe we go a couple days early. We stay in New Orleans, and then we check out of our hotel that morning, drive to Baton Rouge, and then go on home from there.
Or even the Ole Miss game, and I know there's a lot of people upset that that's going to be an early kickoff, but at least now okay, I got to get into Oxford or Memphis or wherever you're staying probably Friday night. But you could leave, maybe you book your flight or whatever, however you're going, for that evening, that Saturday night.
The only problem is I don't think there's any hotel rooms in Oxford.
There is not.
So you'll be in Memphis. You just got to leave a little bit earlier than probably.
And I know there's a lot of people. I saw a lot of people talking about doing Airbnbs in Oxford, but I think those have pretty much sold out too, or they're like crazy expensive. But again, I think it gives fans some,
at least have an idea,
right? And even just knowing the first, 3 games kickoff times and OU Texas kickoff time and the main game, knowing what time those are all at, I think is beneficial. So kudos to the SEC. And don't, just because they're in the SEC doesn't mean they're not going to play 11 a.m. games in the future. I think I saw Arkansas has 5 possible 11 a.m. kickoffs. So
it can happen to you.
Yeah, don't turn into Arkansas.
There's still TV windows to be had.
Right. But I also like how they're doing it where it could be at like noon. And I tweeted this out. There's a big difference between a game being played at 11 a.m. and a game being played at noon, especially for the fans, where you have an extra hour to sleep or drink or whatever you want to do before the game. I think that's huge. And I think they're also doing that where they have these, hour windows or 2-hour windows in the night. They can stagger games so you have more games going on at once, more instead of just having the, 11 a.m., 2:30, 6:30 kickoff times. I like that.
When you do this with your hands, I'm realizing that you are the son of an offensive lineman.
I am.
You just have very long fingers.
Yeah, my fingers are messed up. Look at this.
Well, you're doing that, though. Just do it normal.
I know, but I don't think you could do this. Yeah, you can't do that.
This is great radio.
They're showing each other their dicks, people, and I'm really uncomfortable.
No.
By the way,
real quick, I think there was only one. And look, if you're going to complain about this, just call a place for mom right now and get your rooms booked. But I think there was only one ESPN Plus game on that entire schedule, right?
Correct, the main game.
The main game's going to technically be pay-per-view, but you should have ESPN Plus or SEC Network.
SEC Network Plus, I believe, is the same thing as ESPN.
Yes,
Right.
it is.
Right. So it all gets offered under the same umbrella.
Right.
Washington is 2A. Something I did forget, though, going into next year, 2A will be split up into two divisions like 6A is now.
Okay. Interesting.
So they're 2A1.
The highest. Is that the highest?
Yeah, the highest.
2A2 is
Yeah.
lower. All right. Okay, I think that's going to do it. We got to go get set up. We're going to have Shane Beamer on the family business today.
Very excited for that.
You should
Good
tell
to
him
see Shane.
hello.
We will. I will. I will also say, just from a baseball side of things, I think David Pierce is going to be fired down in Austin, and we'll see how that affects anything to do with Oklahoma.
Former Skip Johnson, former
Texas pitching coach. And I
agree.
Like I just to put it bluntly, I think if Texas were to come after Skip, I think he would leave.
Whew.
But I just don't know like where he is.
Things were going so well for Joe C. After
I don't
that
know.
national championship celebration, and it's all been
that's a
downhill
big
since.
downer in the pod.
Well, I don't know if he would be high enough on CDC's list of people that they're going to go after, because I think anything that we know about Chris Del Conte, he's going to try to hire somebody that makes a big splash. Like
I think the good thing about that is Chris Del Conte would tell Joe, like, I'm going to talk to Skip.
And I think that like Jay Johnson from LSU, I don't think he would take the job.
You see Paul Maneri got hired yesterday?
Yeah, South Carolina. Yeah. He's going to make 1.3 next year. It's good to see him back in baseball, I guess. It's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know where that's going to go. I think it's just something to keep an eye on.
That would be a punch to the gonads.
Yeah, it would be. It would suck. I would hate it. But I think that, like, I don't know. I'm probably somewhere in between of, I think Skip's a great coach. I just don't know if he's sexy enough or big enough
It'd be
splash
pretty,
for CDC.
pretty big splash to just steal OU's baseball coach, though.
Sure. I think there's other guys that are ahead.
Going to the SEC and then stealing a coach from the team you're going with, I mean, that's weird.
Again, we'll see. It's something to monitor, though, just moving forward.
All right, Josh, looking forward to seeing you back in town. I can promise you, are you going to, like, trim that beard a little bit? Just curious.
Me?
Yeah. Eddie's
No, I haven't.
the standard now. Like, he's going and get his beard trimmed. He looks fantastic all the time.
I just when I go get my hair cut. Oh, by the way, I was debating if I was going to tell you guys this.
Uh-oh.
I went to the doctor yesterday. My doctor is one of my good friend's dads.
Uh-huh.
I got the full physical yesterday. Never had done that before. And when I saw the lube out, it made me uncomfortable.
You never been
Lube?
checked for, like, hemorrhoids or anything before?
No.
Why lube?
Because he stuck his finger in my ass, George.
Oh, I've not. You guys are old.
He's
I've
checking
never
for
done. I've
prostate.
never had that to me. I've had the cough.
Okay.
So
right.
just to say that me and my
It
doctor
is.
are
Half of
closer
this
than ever.
podcast doesn't know what Eddie's talking about. I'm part of that half. I've never had to live that life. I'm not there yet.
Are you sure they're supposed to be doing that?
Yeah. It was like
You're
a
a
full
little
It's
young,
like
Eddie.
the Friends episode when Chandler went to get his pants, his inseam.
Possibly.
I thought it was cough left and right.
I did that too.
That's for Little League sports.
I did that too. Did
That's
did
to
it
check
all.
for a hernia.
Did it all. Me and the doc are really tight. We're really close.
Did you have that?
We're all good though. We're all good.
I was
Did it-
about to say, when you led into that, you're like, wasn't sure I was going to tell you this. I was like, only Eddie would tell us that he has like
That's the most
testicular cancer
personal
on the pod or something.
That's the most personal Eddie has ever been, I believe.
Yeah.
Just now.
It was a
You're growing as a
it
person.
was an experience. Let me tell you.
According to the American Cancer Society, people at average risk for colon cancer should get their first colonoscopy at age 45.
I got mine this year or just last year.
I
I'd
didn't
always-
have a colonoscopy.
I mean,
No,
I'm staring
didn't.
down. It's coming for me. But
And I think
Eddie,
that is something that
Eddie, very
everybody
proactive.
I'm here to
everybody-
tell you the
everybody
colonoscopy,
needs to
Josh,
do.
is not as bad as you think it's going to be. It's pretty. The worst part about it is sitting around waiting for your turn to go get your colonoscopy.
Yeah. I've never
the-
had it, but yes, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean the stuff you drink is not pleasant, but it's not like you're just shooting stuff out of your ass constantly. You just don't want to fart.
There is
because of
that's
danger
a lot.
of
That's a lot of information. But
good
I
luck
would
with
say
that.
that is something that I think everybody should do. I know that Tim Fitzgerald kind of leads that charge.
Yeah, definitely. If you're getting around that 50-year-old age, you want to go do it. They show you pictures of it and everything.
Oh.
It's not. Mine was a nice, healthy.
Tell
pink
me it's
color.
okay, Doc. That's all I need. Just tell me I'm okay.
I don't need the photo evidence. Yes. All right. What a way to end a pod. That's gonna do it. Josh will be back with more recruiting reports as camps continue. Also, $1. Go sign up. We would love to have you guys as subscribers. If you listen to the pod, you like the pod, do us a favor. Do us a solid. Just give us $1. Give us $1. Sign up for Sooner Scoop. All right, that's going to do it. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.